for real, we don't know how to act. Yeah, I'm pointing out facts. If I point a finger, that's point of attack. He'll point who's next. Flag on the plate, now I'm causing them dead. We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan, never live with regret. Yes, sir. Go to my neck. Burgundy flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Beat like gas. Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep? Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Left side. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? Right in the middle. Commanders. Where's my soldiers? High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feed the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Welcome, one and all across the nation and around the world. I welcome you all to episode 38 of the Commanders Gridiron Report. Tonight, very special night, Monday night, December 16th, 2024. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and yes, it is a very special time because I'm very rarely free at this time on Mondays to have an episode like this. I generally plan to have this episode each week on Tuesday afternoons, but with the timing of everything, I've had a lot going on this year, just a lot of moving parts, haven't been able to consistently get it done on Tuesdays. That's why this show is floated at different times throughout the week. However, have still made it possible each and every week to at least get the episode out before it's too late while it's still relevant. So while we are still relevant, we have to recap what happened this past weekend and also preview what happens this upcoming week for the Washington Commanders as we are here for episode 38 again. Welcome to those of you who are joining us through Team MBS Media or Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Let's show you the transition.
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Team MBS Media, give me a slogan. We will make it. It will make something very similar to that, but for your brand. So we can click that button just like we did for this one.
Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
That way we can show our collaborations within the brand, within this episode, within all the episodes for the Commanders Gridiron Report. And yes, you are watching the Commanders Gridiron Report streaming live, episode 38, 37 editions before tonight. Started this thing last year in 2023 when they were a dumpster Pelican team, and things have definitely transitioned over to the good side for the Washington Commanders as we are here for episode 38, about to recap another victory. They have doubled their wins from 2023, now up to above that to where they are at 9 wins for the season. The potential to get to double-digit victories for the first time in quite some time. We will recap all of that here in tonight's episode, Talk History. The last time they had started 8-5 and how they had gotten to a 9-5, which has been 25 years. We will talk about all that here on this episode, but let's go ahead and take it into the first segment, and that being the 1st and 10.
They are the Washington Commanders. New name, new marks, new uniform.
Soldiers, are we ready for Operation Burgundy?
And here with the 1st and 10, the Washington Commanders traveled to New Orleans to take on the Saints and won this game 20-19 in New Orleans. Man, I tell you what, watching this game, they were leading for quite some time early on in the contest, and got down to the end where you just let a dumpster Pelican team get back in the game way too soon. I mean, looking at it for what it was, when you look at the start of the game, the Commanders were commanding throughout the first half. McLaurin scored 2 touchdowns within the first and second quarter. They were up 14-0 before halftime. with a Greg Joseph field goal within 7 minutes into the second half. In the third quarter, he hits a 23-yard field goal to take a 17-0 lead. Alvin Kamara then scores a 21-yard touchdown on a pass from Cedric Wilson Jr., the receiver, throwing a pass to Alvin Kamara. That's how wild this offense was, and we'll get more into that when we get into the Burgundy Flex review. But it took a receiver to throw Alvin Kamara a pass for them to finally get on the board. They were still down 17-7 with 5:45 left in the third quarter. Greg Joseph then comes out for the Commanders, hits another field goal for them to go up 20-7 with 14 minutes and 56 seconds left in the fourth quarter. Then it would be all New Orleans Saints from that point, as they were up 20-7. But the Saints would score on 2 field goals by Blake Grupe to go up 20-13 after those back-to-back field goals on back-to-back drives. And then Foster Moreau would have a 1-yard pass from Spencer Rattler, who was not rattled in the second half, coming in relief of Jake Haener, which Haener was not looking well at all. We've got the pictures and the proof to prove it in the Burgundy Flex review here in a minute. But it took the Saints coming back. They went for a 2-point conversion and failed. They lost 20-19. We could have seen an overtime game had they kicked the field goal, but they elected to go for the 2-point because they knew if the Commanders got the ball back, they were more than likely not going to get the opportunity to win, that being in halftime, because at the end of regulation, they scored. Failed the 2-point conversion by Rattler. And it was a wild, wild, wild ending, which we will break down more within photography and within more discussion throughout this episode. But for the 1st and 10, we have to start this off by saying this reminded me of the games of the past. Like when you look at what RG3 did in 2012, this is something even more special than what JD's doing this year. But RG3 was setting records, franchise records, which JD is approaching and beating. But looking at this for what it is, the games that they had you on edge back then, and at the times when they were good, it was like cardiac games, and they were doing this against teams that they shouldn't be losing to or shouldn't even be in the same ballpark within the fourth quarter. And that's what the frustrating thing is to watch within certain games, which it makes you enjoy them even more as a fan when the game ends. But at the same time, it was a roller coaster ride that it's like with the Saints and the way they've been playing and the fact that they've got their third string quarterback starting in this game with Jake Haener. And you had the pressure on them in the first half where they had to switch back to Rattler, who had been rattled throughout his time as the backup this season since Derek Carr went down. And he'd been like that when he went down last year too. Rattler looked rattled, second-year quarterback. Haener comes in just when you think it couldn't get any worse with the way Rattler had been playing in weeks previous. Haener comes out, having even worse of a time. So they put Rattler back in, and they actually get back in the game. He looked pretty good in the second half, at least in the fourth quarter. Not really so much in the third. They were trying to figure things out. It took a receiver to throw the pass to Alvin Kamara in the third quarter to get their first score. It wasn't really until the fourth quarter that they came to life altogether with the quarterback play of Spencer Rattler. So good on them. I mean, they still have a pretty bright future, but they got to make a lot more moves if they want to get to be at the status of relevancy like the Commanders are at this point. And it says a lot to the coaching, says a lot to the management for the acquisitions that they made throughout the offseason. And even Marshawn Lattimore in his first game as a New Orleans Saint, comes out, and did he make a lot of noise as far as like interceptions or deflections or anything? No, because they weren't throwing the ball his way. They were scared. They didn't look his way. Out of the 30 plus plays that he played on defense, they didn't throw the ball his way. They were scared. And they knew what they had traded away. This was his first game since being traded from the Saints to the Commanders back in November. Had been out with a hamstring injury and finally got to showcase that even as a decoy, because that's literally what he was in the secondary, it kept their eyes away from that side, and they were exploiting the other side, where I think during the offseason they would definitely make some moves on the other sides of the defense, especially on that other side of secondary, to where the other cornerback is going to be doing some damage along with him next year. But No Super Bowl this year. Don't be drinking that Kool-Aid just because you have 9 wins, because you still got to get a wild card spot. More likely going to be the 6 or 7 seed. Nothing wrong with that, especially from where you came back from, Commanders fans. Don't you be looking back. You have 9 wins. Last year you had 4. We still had this show last year when they absolutely sucked, and I got reels to prove it. I got the shenanigans. I bring as much shenanigery with this whole thing as I possibly can to keep you entertained. So it's not like you're watching some boring program covering the team. But we still haven't even gotten to the slides, the pictures. We still hadn't even really broken down the stats, really broken down the MVPs of the week. We got to get to all that with this next segment. We are live out there on Team MBS Media or Sartoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. Drop some comments in the chat. Make sure you like, share, subscribe to the channel, whichever one you were watching on. If it's your first time tuning in, make sure you click that like button and subscribe. Come on back now, as we got a lot more football to talk about. Let's go ahead and take this into the Burgundy Flex Review.
Go to my neck, Burgundy Flex. Who wants the smoke? We bringing it home. Be like that.
And here with the Burgundy Flex Review. Yep, look at them celebrating. They're having a good time in this game, or at least in the first half they were. Third quarter maybe a little bit. Not so much since the first half. And 2 field goals in the second half. They were shut down in the second half, but for the first half of this game, this is what they were doing. They were celebrating. They're having a good time. And with looking at how things were for the other side, this is how the defense was pressuring the Saints offense. This is Jake Haener early in the game. This is what led to him coming out at halftime, just because when you look at his stats all together, Mr. old Jake Haener, he was 4 of 10 in that first half. 49 passing yards on those 4 completions and had an interception. He also did have 1 rush for 7 yards, but he was pressured to the point to where they were absolutely smacking him around in this game. I mean, look at this right here. The defense was commanding havoc on this Saints offense on the day. The Commanders defense, looking at what they did to this offense. They had not only 1, but 2, 3 total sacks. And that interception by Mike Sainstrel, who is a rookie going against this team. Number 0, the rookie, with the interception. You got to compare that with Brian Robinson Jr. and what he did on the ground. I mean, on the ground, Brian Robinson Jr. had 21 carries on the day. Now, he didn't get a whole lot of yards, but Brian Robinson Jr.'s 21 carries on the ground helped establish the run, and he did only get 65 yards, but he did have 3 yards per carry, and it did help establish the run for this Commanders team that, even though it's low yardage, you still have a quarterback that's mobile that can offset that, and Jaden Daniels did that by having 11 carries to add to Brian Robinson Jr.'s 21 with 66 yards. So, yes, he did have more yardage from the quarterback in his rushing attempts. But old JD with his runs, along with Brian Robinson Jr.'s runs, totaled 32 total carries for 131 yards. That is wild. When you think about the attempts, 32 times between the quarterback and the running back. Old JD here, the quarterback running. And then you have the running back, Brian Robinson Jr. running as well. Between these two right here, 32 carries for 131 yards. This is absolutely wild. And this is what definitely led to that production in the first half. What also helped with the clock management within the second half, even though they weren't making a lot of noise, they were still running it and still taking time off the clock with the lead, as they had the lead for the majority of the game up until the fourth quarter. Now, when you look at Alvin Kamara right here, he's the only one from the Saints team that really got things going. And he's the first one to score on the day, for this team, because they were down. They were down by a lot at this point. Looking back at it, when Alvin Kamara scored, they were down 17-0. They were down by 3 possessions. And he scored in the third quarter. It took them until 5 minutes and 45 seconds left in the third quarter for him to haul in this 21-yard pass from Cedric Wilson Jr. with the kick They were within striking distance of 10 point of a deficit, down 17-7. Now, JD wouldn't take too kind to this. He would be slinging the rock throughout the majority of this game, and he'll be making attempts to get back with Terry McLaurin, because with McLaurin in the first half, they both connected for 2 good touchdowns. The first one in the first quarter with 5 minutes and 28 seconds left on a 16-yard pass from good old JD right here to Terry McLaurin for a touchdown, the first one between the two on the day. Now, McLaurin would score again in the second quarter with 5 minutes and 38 seconds left on a 3-yard little dink and dunk from JD. He would celebrate there in the end zone. Yet again, they would try throughout the remainder of this game to connect on multiple occasions, but within the third and fourth quarter, JD would throw the ball just a little bit past Terry, or the other 2 times, because there was 3 times where they tried to connect within the second half, he would catch it, the defender would deflect it. There was actually decent coverage on it. And then the third time, I would say he probably could have caught it, but the timing for him just wasn't quite there, which doesn't sound right considering what they've done so far within 14 games of the year played together. But this tandem is going to be dangerous, along with another sidekick weapon of a wide receiver that they can pick up in the offseason. I feel like with a few more moves on offense and defense in 2025, 2026 at the latest, this team's going to be dangerous. But right now, they got some more things to do in order to improve. But I feel like they can still get to at least 10 wins this year, sneak in with the 7th seed for the wild card, and probably win the first wild card game, but then probably more likely lose the division round. They're not getting past the division round this year, guys. But all in all, it's definitely been a fun year to watch. And I'm honored just that I was at the Hail Mary game, and you go back and look at that episode that I did a couple months ago from being there. A lot of great coverage, a lot of great content from just being there. And they have been on a roll. Even though they were 1-2 coming into this previous game, they're now 2-2 in the past 4 games, 9-5, sitting pretty good at this point in the year, and you can't take that away from them. Now, besides JD and the Terry connection, and old JD running in the second half, they turned to Spencer Rattler, and he was not rattled in the second half there for the New Orleans Saints. He was connected. And right there at the end, which would make things really interesting, he would connect on this short touchdown pass right inside the goal line to Foster Moreau on a 1-yard pass with the failed 2-point conversion. That's why it was 20-19, which was a controversial play within that. I mean, what led up to that with the drive right before when the Commanders got their last field goal, I did forget to mention this. You have Ben Sinnott, who had only 1 catch for 7 yards on the day, but this set up a really good first down that they were struggling with in the second half, which this catch right here helped with the Greg Joseph 41-yard field goal at the beginning of the fourth quarter, which was the ultimate decisive factor, which is why they won 20-19. Had he not made this catch on third down, this more than likely could have gone the Saints' way, and it could have been a pretty big comeback. So shout out to Ben Sinnott right here for saving it. But this right here, the game could have gone a completely different way when you look at this whole thing right here. Foster Moreau catching this, and they kicked the field goal, the little extra point field goal attempt. We could have seen something different for an outcome, but they didn't go for, they went for 2 and tried to go with their momentum, and it kind of fired back on them. So we shall see what happens for the New Orleans Saints going on for the rest of this year. I mean, they end this with a 5-9 record, so the best they can do at this point is 8-9. They relieved their head coach of his duties throughout the season, about a month or 2 ago with old Dennis Allen. So between that and all of the drama coming from the Derek Carr situation, I feel like they're going to have a pretty big overhaul this offseason. And it started with Marshawn Lattimore coming to the Commanders, which is big for them. And I feel like, they get into the playoffs. He can be an anchor towards that one playoff victory they have this year. But I don't see them going beyond the wild card game, beyond the division round after winning at the wild card game in the first round. So let me know here in the comments what you think. Do you disagree with what I'm saying? We are live. We are a live production. And Sick Diggy is here with us in the chat. Says, When Daniels connected with McClure with the first touchdown, Brian Robinson took the worst of that collision in the end zone. Yes. And Sick is talking about Brian Robinson Jr. right here. He is the one who took the collision, not necessarily on this play, but right here within this game. This is who was the one that took the collision that Sick is talking about. So between that and with what else he says right here, let's click on his next comment. He has, Robinson should be glad that he was able to get back on his feet. Yeah, and he did, which, after that, this run that he had was actually after that. So, he was still up on his feet, getting it done. But, Brian Robinson Jr., 21 carries on the day, didn't accumulate but for 65 yards, but it did help establish the run along with JD. Again, 32 carries for 132 yards combined between the quarterback and the running back here, Brian Robinson Jr., between him and old JD, 132 yards on this day. Again, if you're tuning in for the first time, please click that like button, help us out here in the algorithm, get some more views, get some more people, get some more eyes up on this live production, or if it's in the replay. But again, between those two players, that's what helped establish the flow on the offense in the first half. They were struggling in the second half. And if it wasn't for the change at quarterback for the Saints with Spencer Rattler coming in, they would not have even made it back into this game, in my opinion. And, he's someone we got to give a shout out to for the Saints because, he was a vital piece and then coming back because Alvin Kamara went down with the injury, in the second quarter. So the Saints showed their mettle in the second half. They also proved no guts, no glory. Absolutely, my man. They absolutely did in this game. And they showed it. And they're fighting for that coach. I forget his name. I actually, drew a blank. If somebody can give me his name in the comments for the Saints, the interim coach. You could tell on the sidelines they like playing for him. It's kind of a similar situation to last year for the Raiders with Antonio Pierce. Old AP over there on the sideline. I think it's like an Italian name or something like that. But you can see him getting animated on the sideline yesterday for that team, and he likes coaching them. I think he might be someone that fills in that void as their head coach next year. The Commanders defense also got a bit complacent in the second half, but were able to make the vital stop on the final play. Yes, absolutely. And it's come down to the final play on multiple occasions this year, whether it be the Hail Mary play on offense or defensive stops that have helped solidify some of these wins to help them double the total they had from last year and now be one win above that. So, congratulations to the organization, to Josh Harris, who, is someone who's definitely been a vital part in this whole shift around for this team too. So hats off to them, as well as the Saints. That they were digging deep, and their coach lit a fire under them at halftime. Yes. Sick. If you could find out who their interim head coach is for the Saints while we are live, I kind of want to know. And when we come back from commercial break here shortly, we'll have to review that because I would have to vow for him to be the head coach moving forward if they continue to play like this. And if they finish the year 8-9, win the remaining 3 games that they have on their schedule, which for the Saints they have the Packers, which I don't know about that one. That's next Monday night, and it's in Lambeau. More than likely the Packers, who, at this point, the way they've been playing, especially with the win they got last night against the Seahawks, they are now 10-4, and every win for them counts with where they're at. They're trying to get a wild card spot considering the division that they're in and how the other teams in their division with the Lions and with the Vikings are completely lighting it up. So with all that being said, when it comes to the Packers, I feel like they're going to beat the Saints in that game. And after that, you got to face the Vikings. The Packers have to face the Vikings. The Saints have the Packers, the Raiders, and the Bucks. So more than likely, I think the Saints win 1 out of their last 3. And, based on what we saw yesterday against the Commanders, they could put up fight. But if they finish this year, the way that I projected, they'll be 6-11 for the Saints to end the year. So their last real chance to get a win, besides the Raiders game that they have, which the Raiders are giving wins away because they want to get a top first or second pick. I feel like this team, the Saints, they're going to finish 6-11, but they put up a really good fight, and they really did dig deep in this game. So shout out to them. Again, if you are just tuning in for the first time, click that like button. Help us out in the algorithm, because with the likes, the shares, with the views, it helps us out here in these streams. Get more eyes on the live content or in the replay when people share it. So other than that, we're going to keep on rocking and rolling. We do have our first commercial break to get to. So shout out to those of you tuning in, as you can subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching this on Team MBS Media or on Sartoga Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. We're going to take this to our first commercial break. When we come back, we still have the Soldiers of the Week, the Showstopper, the Opponent of the Week, and the Final Drive to review. All that and more on this edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Whether it's news, the largest egg producer finds bird flu in chickens at a Texas plant, weather, devastating tornadoes rip through the heart of the United States, inspiration, a breast cancer survivor completed the journey of chemotherapy, and now begins a future one of matrimony or sports. Michael Jordan is shown on a photo with Diddy. LeBron James has a video extolling the virtues of a Diddy party. This has been yet another beating a dead horse presentation. We got you covered. BS3 Network, in association with Comey Media Incorporated, proudly present The Morning Shift with Cole Johnson. Live every weekday at 8 a.m. Eastern, 7 a.m. Central.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $sign DWillie87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Sartoga Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Drew Willingham.
In this case, yeah, you put the blame on Kyle Shanahan for apparently not preparing the team enough for the overtime rules, supposedly.
Cole Johnson.
Peyton was considered a winner, and he was the darling of all darlings for Gerald.
With a special appearance by Tyrone Alizé McDummy.
Ain't nobody calling me. Text, delete.
Join these two football enthusiasts as they give you Total Football Talk. Live every Monday at 11 a.m. Eastern, 10 a.m. Central on the Sartoga Media and the Comey Media YouTube channels.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 38 on December 16th, 2024. We are live with the Commanders survive the late rally by the Saints to win 20-19. I am your host, Drew Willingham, and again, welcome back to episode 38 of this show. We've already gone through the first two segments, which are the 1st and 10 and the Burgundy Flex review of the previous game, but we still have to talk about the standouts, the MVPs from that past game, and that being from our upcoming segment, the Soldiers of the Week.
Where my soldiers, right side. Commanders, where my soldiers, left side.
And here with the Soldiers of the Week, we got to acknowledge the standouts from Week 15. And my choices from this past game, got to give it to Terry McLaurin, 7 receptions for 73 receiving yards and 2 receiving touchdowns. Definitely lighting it up on the year. When you take a look at what Scary Terry has done in these past games against the Titans, He was also on fire in that game, scoring 2 touchdowns as well on 8 receptions for 73 yards, was also a Soldier of the Week in that week's episode. So in the past 2 games, he has 4 touchdowns between the Saints and the Titans game back to back. Then you got to take a look at what he did the week before that against the Cowboys. Terry McLaurin also had a day there, 5 receptions for 102 yards and 1 touchdown. That makes 5 touchdowns in the last 3 games. He's kind of shut down a little bit against the Eagles when you look at the production that they got out of him on this day, because he only had 1 reception for 10 yards. So beyond the game against the Eagles, going into this upcoming week, we have to look back on the fact the man's had 5 total touchdowns in the past 3 games and is having one great season when you put all the stats together through 14 games. So shout out to Terry McLaurin on this day. You got to look at our other soldiers as well. Brian Robinson Jr., 21 carries, 65 rushing yards, 8 rushes for he also had 3 receptions for 22 receiving yards as well. So, when you add all that together, he had 87 total yards on the day, so close to 100 all-purpose yards for him as the running back, catching the ball a few times as well. So we got active between 24 total plays within the offense. So good on Brian Robinson Jr. So those are our 2 of our 3. Let's take a look at our main one, somebody who's made the main impact on this offense throughout the season. That being Jaden Daniels, 25 of 31 on the day, 226 passing yards, 2 passing touchdowns, 11 carries for his rushing game for 66 rushing yards, averaging 6 yards per rushing attempt. He was on fire, in the running game. And again, between him and Brian Robinson Jr., 32 carries for a total of 131 rushing yards. I mean, that is absolutely wild. When you put all that together, those are our Soldiers of the Week this week in this episode of the Commanders Gridiron Report. And now we have some comments we got to take a look at. Sick Diggy says the Saints head coach, no, it's not Dennis Allen. He's been relieved. Dennis Allen was their head coach. Darren Rizzi, yes, that's the last name. That's his mistake. So, yeah, awesome. So, glad you corrected yourself on that one, because, yes, he was relieved a little while back. But Darren Rizzi is the one that I was looking at as the one that should take over the duties in a similar fashion that AP did this past year with the Raiders. Just hopefully he gets set up for more success than AP did, because the Raiders have to do a complete overhaul. And now with Tom Brady in the building as an owner, I think they're going to do a lot more than you think this offseason. Hats off to the kicker, Greg Joseph, for his 2 field goals despite missing his last one. Yes. But that catch by Ben Sinnott that we were talking about earlier, since we're talking about big plays of the game, if it wasn't for this catch on that 3rd down that set up that second field goal that he had for his 2nd of 3rd, where they got the 20 points, that's the decisive factor right there. Besides this was a decisive factor for the Saints to get back in it. But right there for that missed 2-point conversion, I still feel like they gambled a little bit too much there at the end. They should have at least gone for the field goal and played their options in overtime. It would have been a little bit more dramatic, but it was still a dramatic way to end this game, because the way that they had to get together and look at that play to see if he was in or not. I mean, it was something else. It was a lot of drama on that last play. But other than that, when it comes to our Soldiers of the Week, those are the picks for this game. Let's go ahead and take it into our next segment that we have, and that is the Mother, Father, and Showstopper.
High off the way that this sound, they turn up as soon as they feet the ground. I am not playing around. I hit them, I bet that they feeling me now.
Here with the Showstopper, let's talk about the adjustments the team can make to improve from the Week 15 win. Now, they definitely got a lot of help with having Marshawn Lattimore out there as a decoy, and I feel like he's going to be a little bit more active in this game with the Eagles, because the Eagles were actually attacking the side that he was not He was not playing it in that game because when they last played, it was actually after the trade was made, but he wasn't fully healthy from his hamstring injury to actually play until this debut that he had in this past weekend against his former team. So I feel like he knocked the rust off, even though he wasn't active when it comes to huge stats in the game. Him being out there as a decoy, getting active within the game speed, because it's different being in practice than it is getting the game speed and the reps within that. So that's going to pay dividends, I feel like, in this game against the Eagles. That's one of the adjustments they have already made. Two, JD's holding on to the ball a little too long in some situations. I feel like he needs to get rid of the ball a little bit quicker. Although up until like the third quarter, he was still like 23 or 25 or something like that for whatever yards at that point. So he was still doing pretty good. It wasn't until he started taking the shots to Terry in the fourth quarter that I think 4 of those like 6 incompletions he had on the day came from that. He only had 2 incompletions until he started taking shots to Terry McLaurin in the fourth quarter. So I don't think that they need to change any of that. The way that they are managing the flow of their offense, Cliff Kingsbury's doing really well with the play calling. I really like the mix-ups and the matchups they're getting within the mixing up that they're doing. But I want to say that I think that JD needs to get rid of the ball just a little bit quicker. Jaden Daniels needs to get rid of the ball just a little bit quicker. And if he does that, they'll have a little bit more success. And I say that because a couple of those drop passes, had he gotten rid of the ball just a little bit quicker, I feel like it'd have been a little bit more on time with the receivers that he had, that mainly Terry, that they were dropping the ball, especially in the fourth quarter. So get rid of that ball a little bit quicker. Continue to do what you're doing with the defense, despite I still feel like you need another cornerback back there to work alongside with what you got with Marshawn Lattimore. That it would be great if you could trade up into like the top 2, if you can get the second overall pick in a trade during this offseason and get Travis Hunter and have him back there to work with Marshawn Lattimore. Wouldn't that be a nasty combination in somewhere that he would probably enjoy playing, that being Travis Hunter? That would be great. And he could play a little bit on offense to be your secondary option for Terry McLaurin. That would be perfect. But you're not going to get that adjustment this week. No. You're not going to get that, and not for this season. But you're going to have a tough game against the Eagles at home for the adjustment from this past week's win. You're coming into this game against the Eagles since playing them 2-2 in the past 4 games. And it made very, very good improvements throughout this run to where even though the last time you played them, you lost 26-18, I feel like it's going to be an even closer game. One, you're going to have the fans at home, that you're going to have the crowd noise in your favor. That's always a great thing to have behind you. But since the last time that you played, which actually you had 3 games since the last time you played them, and you are 2-1 since you last played. You're 2-2, including that game, and including the game before that with the Steelers, which was the loss you had right before that by 1 point. You're 2-3 in the last 5 games since beating the Giants the week before. So in your last 6 games, you're 3-3. If we go past the Hail Mary game, which they won the week before that, so they're 4-3 since the Hail Mary game. But 3-3 since the Hail Mary game, they've been struggling. They have been struggling throughout, barely beating the Giants, losing the 1-point game to the Steelers, losing a very tough one by 8 points, by 1 possession to the Eagles, losing another one the next week, same score differential, but a little bit more of a score by both teams. When you lost to the Cowboys, you demolished the Titans, which anybody can, because it's like my man Cole Johnson says on Total Football Talk, Will Levis is the gift that keeps on giving over there for the Titans, for everybody. So he keeps giving to everybody, and he gave to the Commanders that week too. And in this week, you beat the Saints. So 3-3 in the past 6 games since coming off the win the previous week from that in the Hail Mary game that I was, there for 7 weeks ago. Well, 8, including the bye week. So 2 months ago. Still, a lot has happened, and not in as good of a favor for you as it was before that stretch. So you still have a lot of work to do in these last 3 games. And I feel like if you win one out of the next 2 games, you have a shot. I mean, one out of the next 3 games, you have a chance to make the playoffs as the 7th seed. You win 2 out of the next 3 games, you're definitely making the playoffs as a 6 or 7 seed, in my opinion, because you'll have 11 wins at that point. And I just feel like an 11-6 team, it should be a crime if you're 11-6 and don't make the playoffs as a 7 seed. I mean, come on. In those last 3 games, we'll review the first one that's this week here in a few minutes, which will be the Eagles when they come to Washington to take on the Commanders. But you have the Falcons the week after that at home, which, that's your last home game of the season, more than likely, depending on how the playoffs are set. But even then, more than likely, that would be an away game if you get in. And you have the Cowboys in the last week. In my opinion, before we even break down the Eagles game, is between the Falcons and the Cowboys. You're going to win the game against the Falcons based on the way the Falcons are playing. As long as you don't go into it and take them too lightly, you play the way you've been playing this season, you're going to get a victory. So if you don't beat the Eagles, which I'll break down here in a few minutes, if you don't get it there, which we'll see what I have to say here shortly with that, but I at least have them beating the Falcons. The Cowboy game is going to be a toss-up depending on how these 2 games between the Eagles and then Falcons go, because you lose the next 2 games and you're 9-7 going into this game against the Cowboys. It's like a must win for a glimmer of hope to even get in the playoffs. But I feel like you're going to beat the Falcons and it'll make the Cowboy game even better. And if you beat the Eagles and you solidify an entry into the playoffs, you don't have to play as hard going into the Cowboys. But I think that the Dan Quinn-led team is going to be playing hard no matter what the situation is. And they're going to get the win there too, unless things drastically change over the course of the next 2 weeks. I don't think I'm going to change my stance, and we'll look back at this episode and take a clip from it and see what I said from here to then is my reasoning for why I have them winning in those games. But we'll get to the Eagles pick here shortly. But before we get to the remainder of this segment and to our last 2 after that, let's see what Sick has to say with his comments regarding Rizzy's future with the Saints. That's all on the Saints owner, Gail Benson, and GM Mickey Loomis, which Mickey Loomis has made some questionable calls in the past. We'll have to see what he does during this offseason for the Saints, especially after a type of defeat that they received at the hands of the Commies from this past weekend. And as always, if you're new to the channel, subscribe now and never miss out on new content. Please click that like button to help us get some more views out here in these streams. Every single piece that you can do to help us with that gets more views within the algorithm with the likes and even with watching it, whether it's live right now like it is, or if you're watching this during the replay. Thank you as always for tuning in. And as well, and Sick also says a couple of the key pieces on the offensive line might be vital in the offseason. Okay. Yeah. And I feel like for the Saints, yes. But the Commanders need another piece or two, because you can see where there's a lot of situations not as similar to last year. They made an overhaul in comparison to last year, but there's been certain moments that reminded me of last year with certain breakdowns within the offensive line. If it wasn't for the mobility of Jaden Daniels, they wouldn't have half the success that they have this year. Or maybe a little bit more. They might have 6 of their 9 wins, but the special talent of that kid to extend plays along with the other weapons that they have at the disposal around them are the reason why they are 9-5 right now. Fatigue and recovery still factors in. Absolutely. It absolutely does. And head coach Dan Quinn will need to get his team's mindset adjusted. Seems like they're experiencing season fatigue. What were they doing during the bye week? Well, I don't know if it was more so fatigue. I think it was a little bit of rust, because they didn't look tired to me, especially the weapons on offense like Terry and JD, and the amount of times they ran the ball. No, they weren't tired. The defense, the chemistry is what they're trying to develop, because, again, Marshawn Lattimore is just now starting his run with the Commanders, his first game. They also have some injuries within the defense too. So working with the weapons that they've got, with weapons off of the practice squad and some moves during the offseason and during the season, and some people coming back from injury, trying to figure out their flow and what they can do to help the momentum of their position within the offense, defense, or even on special teams. it's something they're trying to figure out altogether. So I think that I don't think it's more so fatigue. I think it's more so the mindset of we're just trying to get to know one another within the scheme and develop themselves each week, because each week even in the losses, you've seen them take from something from the loss, work on it, and at least within that part of the game, they've gotten better, whether it's the pass coverage or the rush coverage or how to attack and blitz and put pressure on the other side. When it comes to the defense, the offense has been consistently good all year, to where we really, JD's had some questionable calls here and there, but not really that much, except for when he got banged up before the Hail Mary game the couple of weeks prior to that, where it was questionable if he would even play at the time that I was going to that game in October. Beyond that, he's made some better decisions with how he's ran and taking better care of himself. But beyond that one incident, he has played lights out and deserves the Rookie of the Year, in my opinion, with how he's played. He's not going to get the MVP, of course, but he deserves the Rookie of the Year and offensive talent, offensive player of the year, potentially, for what he's done and meant to this Washington organization. If it wasn't for them drafting him number 2 overall, that's what sparked the momentum shift within this organization, along with the culture that they were establishing during the offseason already with the head coaching hire. But with JD in the offense, it flows through him, and it shows each and every week. And 6 says he was referring to the Commanders regarding the offensive line. Okay, which, yes, we're on the same page with that. But the Saints, when I was starting with that take, they need help on their offensive line too, because looking back to the first half, I mean, Jake Haener, regardless if he's an NFL talent or not, he just didn't even have the time, because look at him. They're already in his face right there. And then on top of that, look at the pressure right there. Look at how far back your offensive lineman is knocked behind the play. Twisted all the way around. I mean, that they need help on their offensive line, I think, more at this point. The Saints remind me of what the Commanders were last year. The Commanders have made some big upgrades. Al Goretti coming over from the Kansas City Chiefs is one of them, is established an anchor, spot within the offensive line, but he needs a little more help around him. You get somebody of the caliber of Trent Williams, you're not going to get Trent Williams back, but if you get someone of the caliber of what Trent Williams was to anchor the other side, it's going to be a very, very good future for this offense for the Commanders and what they build around them. They make the moves on defense that we've already talked about in this episode. We could see something brewing within 2025, potentially by 2026 at the latest, to where these episodes are only going to get even more fun from this point forward. So beyond that, 6 says, good point. The game rust will affect the team. It will. And even if it's one person is getting reinserted to a lineup or for the first time ever into the lineup, that can affect the others around you. It wasn't like brutally affecting them in a bad way. They're just trying to figure out how one flows with one another. And Marshawn Lattimore was definitely a good decoy in this game. And I enjoyed watching that aspect of it as well. So, and again, if you're tuning in for the first time on Team MBS Media or
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Make sure you subscribe now and never miss out on new content. If it is your first time, click that like button to help us out with the algorithm and the potential to get more views on this live video while we are live or during the replay after we are off the air. With that being said, we've gone through all the comments here so far. We're going to take it into our last commercial break. And when we come back, we've got to break down the opponent of the week with the Philadelphia Eagles. We also have to take it into the final drive. So all that and more on this 38th edition of the Commanders Gridiron Report.
Commanders, where's my soldiers? Right side, right side. Commanders, where's my soldiers? Left side, left side.
Everything Boston. I love you morons. New Kids on the Block, New Edition.
Dear whatever the law firm is. Sincerely, the U.S. Supreme Court.
Ben Affleck, Matt Damon. Go yourself again, Jason Whitlock.
Hey, ladies and gentlemen. Hey, look. Hey, stop playing games. Y'all already know. Go ahead and toss him some Willie Bucks. Ain't nobody playing around. Hey, $ D Willie 87. Go ahead and hit him up on the Cash App and go ahead and give him some Willie Bucks. Look at Drew looking stoic, ladies and gentlemen. Stoic on that $10 bill. So go ahead, slide my man over some Willie Bucks, and we good. That's all I'm saying. We good. How about some Willie Bucks?
Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Oh, yes. The tradition, the pageantry, the spectacle, the history, the slut. Wait. I gotta rep my brother's stuff right. All my DMV soldiers, stand up! And welcome to the Commanders Gridiron Report. If you want your Commanders to be repped right, well, D. Willie is your man. Commanders Gridiron Report. Every Tuesday at 1:05 p.m. Eastern, 12:05 a.m. Central on the Surtoba Media YouTube channel. Music by J.KUL.
Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, right side, Commanders. Where my soldiers, left side.
Welcome back to the Commanders Gridiron Report, episode 38 on December 16th, 2024. We are live, at least currently while we are live. The Commanders survive the late rally by the Saints to win 20-19 is the game that we just reviewed. And now we've got to preview the upcoming game against the Philadelphia Eagles. Again, we are live. Drop your comments in the chat and we will acknowledge them, or I will acknowledge them. It's just me here on this show. But again, we got Mick in the house. Says, what up, Drew? Well, what's up, Mick? Glad that you could make it to this program, as you were also there for Total Football Talk earlier with Kyle Johnson. It is a very rare occurrence that I am live on a Monday night, as I'm generally at work, but taking a PTO day. For those of you that don't know what that is, it's a paid time off day. Because I have to use it before the end of the year or I'll lose it. So it's either use it and enjoy some time, which I can give back and get ahead of the curve and do an episode I would normally do either tomorrow or later in the week tonight and get it off the plate, but also enjoy a different time on the week that I normally wouldn't be able to enjoy with you. So we're getting it done tonight. So thank you for tuning in with us tonight, Mick. Mick, 6 says, hey, Mick, how are you? Even Melvin made it. Sick and Melvin going back and forth, and he says that he is okay. Thank you very much. Well, glad that you are all doing okay, that you are all here, and because you are all here, giving shout outs, I'll go ahead and give you this.
What's that?
With that.
Now, nobody wants to come up here and take the I mean, the only really way you can do that is if you're a fan of this franchise.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
While those fans are out there saying,
hell to the no, to the no, no. Hell no, to the no.
You know damn well that you are a total. When it comes to the king of clicking buttons,
Acknowledge me.
facts. If not, then you'll get served the...
What?
Was that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
Or are you out there saying,
Stop it. Get some help.
come on now, you know.
You like that? You like that?
All right, back to the program. Let's see what you guys say over here in the live chat. 6 says, my question is, how will the Commanders' defensive line be able to stop the Eagles running? Can they shut down Saquon Barkley? We'll talk about that here in a minute. That's a great question because we still have to take it to the opponent of the week, as I had the shenanigery right there. 2 more segments left. Let's take it into the first one with the opponent of the week.
Look how we step. Who we got next? Step on the right, step on the left. Who do we rep?
And here with the opponent of the week, my man Dante, my man Pisco, a lot of you out there that I know, others that I can name for days, but my 2 main ones that I know and talk to on a regular basis. Those of you out there who are Philadelphia Eagles fans get to embrace the rivalry this weekend as the Eagles come to Northwest Stadium to take on the Washington Commanders at 1:00 p.m. Eastern Time this Sunday, the 22nd of December, Week 16. The Eagles, who are 12-2, first place of the NFC East, facing the number 2 ranked in their same division in this division rival matchup against the Washington Commanders, who are 9-5, facing them at home. You know, Sick has some good questions, and he'll keep firing some other ones in there. And the rest of you out there who are watching, bring in some good questions too on what you think or what your questions are about this upcoming matchup. But between the Commanders and the Eagles in this upcoming home game for the Commanders, excuse me, I had to cough for a second. It's that time of year. But with the Philadelphia Eagles coming to town 12-2 against the Washington Commanders 9-5 here, it's a tough matchup for the Commanders, but they definitely proved they can hang tough with them when they faced this team just a month ago and lost by only 1 possession, 26-18. Now, the overview throughout that game, we talked about it then and we'll talk about it again, but going into halftime, the Commanders were winning this game only by 7-3, but they were winning, against the Eagles at that point. And through 3 quarters, the Commanders had the slim but enough of a lead, 10-6. It was back to the 4th quarter that we go, where the Commanders have had a tough time hanging on to wins, and even in the wins that they have had, it seemed like there's been a potential to where they could give it away, like they did against the Saints this past weekend. And in the last game they had against the Eagles, giving it away is what they did when Hurts scored on a 1-yard touchdown run. Barkley scored on 2 rushing touchdowns as well to make it 26-10, the Eagles, before the end of the 4th quarter, when Zach Ertz scored at the very end with a 2-point conversion to make it 26-18 with 28 seconds left. And there just wasn't enough time and enough opportunities for the Commanders to come back. So with all that being said, with the opponent of the week that we have yet again, because it's a division rival and at home, there's things that go in the favor of the Commanders this time that were different the last go around. You're at home. You have the crowd noise. You have the home field advantage. That stuff does matter for one. You have the momentum of coming off of a victory like you did this past week. And the Eagles, I mean, they have momentum for themselves, because they have won, consistently throughout this year. I mean, the last time that they lost a game was it's been a minute. The last time they lost a game was to the Buccaneers back in September. And they lost 2 games. They started off the year a little rough when they lost to the Falcons early on and when they lost to the Buccaneers. But since then, this team has literally won 10 consecutive games since then. So a streak that's tough to come back from. I mean, it's tough if you're the Commanders trying to chase them for the division, it's not going to happen. Even if you beat them here and they lose the next 2 games, that would be the only way, and I don't see that happening. And even with my prediction that I'm about to say, with what comes true, they still win the next 2 games and they still win the division. So they got to win like one more game and they've won the division, I believe. They're in the playoffs. But when it comes to the Eagles right here and now, this is for the division literally in this game, regardless of what happens in the next 2 weeks that would have to happen in order for them to fully take it. But the Commanders win this game against the Eagles. They're in the playoffs. Definitely. They'll have 10 wins, and they will be at a point then with beating the second seeded team right now, because the Lions are still up there. Even when they lost to the Bills, they're still up there with the number 1 seed. You get the Lions and the Eagles. I think the Commanders squeak in with the seventh seed, and it starts with this win here. Because even if they lose their last 2 games that they have, because they have some tough ones, you got to face the Falcons, and you got to face the Cowboys in your last 2 games, which I already got them beating the Falcons. But you win here, you win against the Falcons. That's 11 wins on the year. That's definitely guaranteed playoff spot, in my opinion. That's why I say that. Now, will they beat the Eagles? That's what the question is. If they can sustain the run and hold Saquon Barkley to under 70, to I would say less than 75 yards. If he has less than 75 yards and even 1 touchdown, 73 yards, 72, 68, whatever. Very similar to what we saw out of Derrick Henry for the Ravens, even though they have Lamar Jackson, and that's why they won. But if you can sustain him to under 75 yards, and I think that the Commanders win this game based on what I've seen. But the defense really needs to step it up. And the acquisition of Marshawn Lattimore is going to have to pay dividends in this weekend's upcoming contest with the Eagles in order for this to come into fruition. So when it comes to the questions that Sick has regarding this matchup, his question is, will the Commanders' defensive line be able to stop the Eagles running, and can they shut down Saquon Barkley? I mean, that's the big question of all this. They do that, and they keep him to under 75 yards and 1 or less touchdowns, 1 or 0. They have a good chance of doing this because they've proven it in the past before, and they kept it to where it was a 1-score game when they played them the last time. And Saquon actually had a better game than that in that point. But with what you're getting from Mike Sainstro, the rookie, with the pressure that he's putting on, Dante Fowler Jr. with what he's doing, Bobby Wagner has solidified the leadership within the linebacking core that has been helping out this team. I really, really like what I'm seeing. And especially the last time they played, the Eagles barely won by 8 points on paper. But then it took Saquon getting 26 carries for 146 rushing yards and 2 rushing touchdowns in order for that to come together. And then on top of that, when you add his receiving stats to the whole part, he had 2 receptions for 52 yards. So he literally almost combined for 200 yards all purpose on 28 total plays in that game against the Commanders, and they still won by 8. So I think you definitely hold them to 75 or less, which is tough. I mean, compared to the stats here, you hold them to 100 or less and 1 touchdown on probably like 18, 19 carries or less, and they win the game. And I think they can do that. They have been the big thing is the fourth quarter, because you could argue like Sick Diggy did about if they were gassed by the fourth quarter coming off the bye week, which is definitely a good argument, or you could argue the chemistry like I was talking about with the new acquisitions and some people that they've got playing in different spots that are fill-ins while other people are recovering, switching them out different plays. They might not be playing every single snap, whatever the case may be. It's a lot. It's a lot of changing going on. So they're trying to figure this all out before the end of the season and before it's too late. And all those different changes could be affecting them. And how much will Jalen Hurts be running the ball? That's a good question, because in this past game for the Philadelphia Eagles, you got to look at what he did against the Steelers. And, he had 290 passing yards and 2 touchdowns. Saquon had 65 yards only accumulated on the day with 19 carries. Struggled. He was a little banged up on this day. But, Jalen Hurts, he had to run the ball 15 times to only muster up 45 total yards on the ground with 1 rushing touchdown. So it took Hurts with 2 passing and 1 rushing for them to really take control over the Steelers, along with some good defensive attacks by the Eagles defense. That's what really solidified that game against the Steelers, and they really needed that win. So it proved what they can do against the Steelers if they were to happen to mysteriously show up against them, not show up, but match up against them in a Super Bowl this year. But based on what happened with TJ Watt in this game, I think that those potential opportunities for that happening this year are slim to none without TJ Watt. The CGR, the Commanders, let me go ahead and restart this one real quick. The Commanders Gridiron Report is brought to you by Sleazeball Meaty Subs, Christmas smoked turkey, bacon, and charro cheddar. Let the holiday season begin with some good old turkey. And Godsmack Thirst Quenchers, evil green kiwi and lemon lime. Steal the thirst and the pains of Christmas like the Grinch. And as always, subscribe now and never miss out on new content, whether you're watching this on Team MBS Media or on Surtoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome. If you are watching this channel and this product for the first time. If you're watching again, please make sure you're liking if you are a returning viewer. And if you're a returning viewer, thank you, as always, for tuning in and being here for myself and the brand out here in these streets. Mickey says, Drew, I'm calling it now. Fly, Eagles, fly. Okay. Well, you're going to call that. I'm going to call this.
Yippee-ki-yay, motherfucker. Oh, my brother, testify.
Was that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
I don't know, Mick. I don't know if we're going to see a fly, Eagles, fly moment out here in these streets.
What?
It's very much possible.
What?
It could happen.
What?
I am just calling for it to go the other way.
What?
Is that a total?
Surprise, motherfucker.
I think they stopped Jalen Hurts. You know, if you look at what happened in this past game for the Eagles against the Steelers contained him to 15 carries for 45 yards. He did get it in the end zone, but it was on like a little, 1 or 2 yard run that he had. And yeah, it was a 1 yard run at the end of the fourth quarter to put them up by two scores, that they had gotten the ball back on a turnover by the Pittsburgh offense. So looking at it for what it is, some luck goes the way of certain teams in certain games, and it could happen. And the Eagles could win. And my man Dante is probably not going to like hearing what I'm saying, but this is not just as a fan of the Commanders. This is as someone watching the games. The Commanders are due, and they need this win more than the Eagles do right now. So the Eagles will still win the division, I believe, because they'll still win the remaining two. The Commanders will probably split, whether it's a loss to the Falcons or to the Cowboys. But I feel like they started off right here, and they win, and they get to their 10th win of the season when the Commanders beat the Eagles this Sunday.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, my brother, testify.
Final score for this game is going to be very similar to what it was when they played just a month ago. It's going to be a one-possession game. I don't think it's going to be by 8. I think it's going to be by 6. I think that this game ends in a 35-29 final score. The score is probably going to be wrong, but they're going to win the game by 6, in my opinion. Eagles lose to the Commanders on the road in Northwest Stadium. The Commanders get the win. That is my
surprise, motherfucker.
Pick this week. The Commanders are going to serve the Eagles the entire Big O. Or I'm completely wrong, and the Eagles come on into Northwest Stadium and they serve the Commanders the big old same piece of a.
English, motherfucker, do you speak it?
Come on now. I'm speaking it, but I'm still calling for the Commanders to win this game. Damn! And anybody has a chance to beat the Eagles. Anybody with a decent caliber squad that is not this team right here.
This has been yet another Beating a Dead Horse presentation.
And if you are a snowflake, it's only because of this.
You can't handle the truth.
Come on now.
Acknowledge me.
Welcome back to the Mother Fathering program. Let's see what you guys say out here. Mick says no. He says Eagles 43, Washington 32.
Hell to the no, to the no, 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 no. Hell no, no, to the no, no.
Mick.
Let me talk to you.
When it comes to this prediction right here.
Now, that is absurd.
Other than that, to you, I have to say.
What's that? What's that?
Now, when it comes to your prediction, when it comes to the score itself, not a bad one. But it will be Washington on the winning side. And they'll be winning by 6. That is my prediction.
Yeah. Yeah.
Apparently, Mick thinks that I am smoking. So, Mick.
Would you please shut the hell up?
Click another button for you.
Let's get ready to rumble. You should know your role and shut your mouth.
I'm not smoking anything at this time. But what I will tell you is this. I am predicting them to lose, them being the Eagles, on the road in Northwest Stadium. The Commanders win while Sick laughs. That is exactly what happens while the majority of the people out there when it comes to this subject.
Ain't nobody got time for that.
Facts, brother. Now, with that all being said, let's go ahead and take this into the final segment of this episode and round it on out with the final mother-fathering drive.
We bet on ourselves, so what you expect? A die-hard fan never live with regret. Yes, sir.
And here with the final drive, closing thoughts on this team heading into week 16. I kind of had some Dr. Seussisms to it. I'm on a roll with all that being said, Final thoughts on that when it comes to the Dr. Seussisms. I've been on a roll with that. Basically, if you go back and look at the Evil Little People episode from this past week on D. Willie in the Evening on Sertoba Media, which is brought to you by this.
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
I had some Dr. Seussisms in there within the Teenage Mutant Evil Little People. So you can go check that out. This past episode 29. And this upcoming week's episode 30 will be the last one for a little bit as I'm taking a holiday break. D. Willie in the Evening's episode 30, Taco Tuesday, Destroyed Santa, this Thursday, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, the last episode before the holiday break, as next week is going to be Christmas. The following week after that will be New Year's. And then the week after that is my birthday. So I'm going to give myself a few weeks off from this project. But yes, the last one will be this Thursday. And that one will be the last one until January when episode 31 returns to kick off the second half of season 3 of D. Willie in the Evening. Just wanted to get that message on out there. For those of you, the viewers, which if this is your first time checking this out, you can check out Sertoba Media on YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter, and as well as at Sertoba.com, where the struggle is real to be awesome. But when it comes to this Commanders team, to round things out for this final episode, it's been another great week of football, except for the heart attack they gave us in the fourth quarter with letting the Saints come back in the game. But looking at what Spencer Rattler did by not being rattled and coming in and leading this team to a comeback after Jake Haener, had the pressure all over him in this game, was struggling from start to finish. I mean, looking at what he dealt with was absolutely pressure in the face, was not recovering from it, which is why he was taken out of the game in the second, before the second half even started at halftime. The pressure on him was just absolutely wild, smacking him around to where Rattler comes in, leads him to that comeback. Morogus, that touchdown, the failed 2-point conversion, and then the Commanders win with Terry McLaurin happy as a mother-father. Looking at all that for what it is. Commanders fans, you got to be happy for that game. You got to be happy for what's to come. My prediction, again, is going to be a close game, but they win by 6 this upcoming Sunday at home. Tell me in the comments if you feel like I'm wrong. Give me your reasons for it. I feel like the Marshawn Lattimore addition is going to pay dividends because a lot of the spots that they were attacking with Devontae Smith and A.J. Brown in that previous matchup, and even with the runs too, were with that spot in the secondary getting exploited that they needed the help with, which is why they traded for Marshawn Lattimore, and they didn't have him in that last matchup. So looking at it for what it is, I again have the Eagles losing to the Commanders. I could be wrong. I've been wrong about many other things this season, but I was right about the Lions losing to the Bills, unfortunately, because I'd like to see the Lions win. But the Bills won that game, and I called it, and they won just like I called it too. So when it comes to this, I hope that they win this game like I'm calling them to win against the Eagles based on what I've seen from both teams. And with Saquon only mustering up 65 yards, looking like he's struggling a little bit, although he's trying to go for that rushing title, going for certain accolades doesn't guarantee you a good run in the playoffs. And I think they're figuring that out now, and they're still finding ways to win games. And the Eagles could prove me wrong and still continue this streak of the wins that they have been on for a while now. But if there's a team out there that's going to beat them in these final 3 weeks, it's going to be the Washington Commanders this Sunday by 6 points in their home stadium with the home field advantage and the crowd and the momentum on their side. That's who I have. That is my choice for this yet again. And those are my closing thoughts heading into week 16. Again, if you didn't go back and see it, go back and see it after this episode. Evil Little People, D. Willie in the evening on the brand known as
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.
Don't forget this Thursday also produced will be Taco Tuesday Destroyed Santa, the last episode before the holiday break for D. Willie in the evening before it's gone for the upcoming 3 weeks because, again, Christmas, the following week, New Year's, the following week, birthday. Need to give myself a little bit of a hiatus from this project because although it is fun to do that, I still have this show, the Commanders Gridiron Report, to bring you every single week, along with 2 episodes of Total Football Talk, one being the main one with my man Cole Johnson on Monday mornings, and the other one being at the end of the week to cover the Monday and Thursday night games with Total Football Talk Extra. So with all that being said, I'm just glad to be able to bring you some shenanigery with the D. Willie in the Evening project and look forward to working on editing that down a little bit more tonight before I go to bed and get ready to go back to work tomorrow. So again, normally I would be at work at this time at 8:50 p.m. Eastern time on a Monday as I work a mid shift, which usually has me there until 2, anywhere from 1 to 2 to 3 in the morning, depending on the type of night it is, sometimes later. So with that type of career, I have to work all this around it, and it's fun. And I love doing what I do in and outside of this, whether it's life or with this podcast. And it's just all of a matter of scheduling things and making it work. And that's why I'm doing this episode tonight instead of tomorrow before I go to work or later in the week, like I've had to do in certain cases if it didn't work out on those Tuesdays, because I got some other things I need to get, fit in with the time before the holidays get here. And I think tomorrow I'm going to try to get some Christmas wrapping done. So that's on my agenda, along with editing some content, getting some shorts out there. A lot of great content between Total Football Talk earlier, D. Willie in the evenings, Evil Little People. I got 4 shorts from that. I got to finish breaking down at least a good 2 or 3, maybe 4. But clips that I brought down from that. Now, a lot of good things coming out from Sertoba Media right now, along with this show. 38 episodes of this show from last year when they sucked to now when they've been playing pretty good. And look forward to continuing that trend of producing episodes for this team, whether they're good or bad, and enjoying discussing them. And hopefully if timing and, traveling and all that works into my favor at some point in the next year or 2, I can get back to actually going to the games like I used to, like as someone who covers them in the media, and get some access and show you guys things that I used to be able to do on other platforms, whether it be through this platform or, with help of another. So those discussions are still ongoing, but there's other things that I have to do to prepare myself to be able to, 1, have the time on a regular basis for that, and 2, to have the availability. With the time and availability is the same thing, but the means. So It's in the portfolio. You've seen I can do it. It's just a matter of time of getting back into that. But this is what I can bring you right now for the Commanders coverage, and I will continue to do so each and every week throughout the regular season and also in their postseason run if they have one this year, and also, at least a one episode per month update like I did last year or last offseason to give you the latest and greatest within the Washington Commanders. If you want to see me on social media, you can look me up on these platforms here: Instagram, X, formerly known as Twitter, Snapchat, or on Facebook. Those are the main ones that I at least get on. I need to do a better job of getting on X. But ever since they started charging to stream, charge to stream your live streams, I decided, I was going to stay off there for the most part. And then they got these other things out there called like Blue Sky and these wild different social media platforms. I'm done with the 27 different choices of social media platforms. I'm sticking to what I know and what I've seen growth in. And I appreciate the help from all of you out there on me speaking on behalf of my own platform, as well as on Team MBS for those of you who've been watching this on that platform as well, or A7BN Sports, or the other ones like Legacy Maker Sports that helped get this whole thing with me jump-started in the beginning. So with all that being said, let me go ahead and review, some more comments real quick before we get on out of here. Six says, avoid the tacos between now and New Year's. Absolutely. Mick was laughing at that. I guess he liked the graphic with Santa on there. And have a great week. Well, I appreciate that. You have a great week too, my man. Hopefully you can tune in 3 nights. It'll be 3 nights from now. The episode for D-Will in the evening will be up. Just got to finish editing it down. I got to record one more piece for that here in a little bit. But right now, it's time to grab some food, watch a little TV, kick back and chill. The football coverage for you between Total Football Talk and the Commanders Gridiron Report is now concluded. I will see you on Thursday when that premieres for the D-Willie in the evening, or you will see it. I will have already produced it. But I will see you live again either Friday or Saturday, one of those 2 days, depending on how the work week goes. One of those 2 days to do Total Football Talk Extra to recap the 2 games from tonight's Monday Night Football that I got to start watching here in a minute, as well as the Thursday night game in the process to be played on Thursday. So, for myself, Drew Willingham, this is the Commanders Gridiron Report, and we only have one more thing left to look at on our way on out of this stream, and that is one badass outro. Thank you, as always, for tuning in. Please like, share, and subscribe to the channel, the show itself, and the content. Thank you, as always, and we'll see you next time. Stay safe out here in these streets.
Commanders, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, Commanders, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers, where we step, where my soldiers, right side, Commanders, where my soldiers, left side, Commanders, where we step, where my soldiers, watch the middle, Commanders, where my soldiers,
Sertoba Media, where the struggle is real to be awesome.